Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell y'all something today that might just free your soul a little bit. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants peace. But not everybody around you wants that for you. There are people in your life who smile at you but drain you. And the smartest thing you can do is recognize that not every smiling face is your friend. Protecting your energy is not just a suggestion. It's a survival skill in today's world, especially when dealing with toxic people. When you allow yourself to be constantly exposed to negativity, manipulation, or drama, it chips away at your peace and slowly drains the very essence of who you are. Toxic people operate in a way that makes you feel like you owe them something. Your time, your attention, your reaction. But the truth is, you don't owe anyone access to your mental and emotional space if all they do is poison it. Protecting your energy means understanding that not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Some people are only there to eat, not to build, support, or uplift. They come with criticism disguised as concern, with passive-aggressive comments masked as jokes, and with intentions that serve only themselves. You cannot afford to entertain that when you're on a path to growth. The smarter move is not to confront them head on every time they try to bait you. The smarter move is to rise above their frequency. Toxic people want to argue. They want to pull you into chaos. They feed off of attention, even if it's negative. So when you disengage, when you remain calm, when you choose not to respond, they lose because you didn't give them what they wanted. That's how you protect your energy, by becoming unavailable to foolishness. You can't control how others behave, but you can control what you tolerate. And tolerance without boundaries is an open door for emotional and mental exhaustion. If you find yourself constantly explaining, defending, or justifying yourself to someone who never really listens or respects you, pay attention. That's not love, that's control. That's toxicity trying to disguise itself as concern. Protecting your energy in that moment means stepping back, taking a breath, and asking yourself if this person truly adds value to your life or only adds stress. It's not about cutting people off cold for every disagreement. It's about recognizing patterns. If you leave every interaction with someone feeling worse than before, that's a pattern. If someone only reaches out to unload their problems but never asks about you, that's a pattern. If you constantly feel like you're walking on eggshells around someone, that's not peace, that's survival mode. And nobody grows in survival mode. You're meant to thrive, not tiptoe through your own life. Protecting your energy also means knowing when to say no. It means setting boundaries that might disappoint others, but will free you. It means honoring your own time, your emotional bandwidth, and your mental clarity. People will call you selfish when you stop sacrificing yourself for their comfort. Let them. The people who truly care about you will respect your need to recharge, to say no, to create space. They won't guilt you or gaslight you into overextending yourself. Toxic people, on the other hand, will take and take until you have nothing left, and then blame you for being empty. One of the most powerful things you can do is remove yourself from the line of emotional fire. You don't have to stay in the room, in the relationship, in the circle. Sometimes protecting your energy means turning your phone off, saying I'm not available for this conversation, or quietly distancing yourself without the need for explanation. Not everything deserves a reaction. Not every fight needs to be fought. Wisdom lies in choosing which battles are worth your peace and which ones you simply walk away from. When you start treating your energy like a currency, valuable, limited, and essential, you become more mindful of where it goes and who gets access to it. You start realizing that being selective isn't being arrogant, it's being aware. Toxic people won't like it because they thrive when you're tired, confused, or emotionally stretched thin. But the moment you stop feeding that cycle, you take your power back, you reclaim your focus. You preserve your joy. You protect your energy like your life depends on it, because in many ways it truly does. Don't argue, observe. That's one of the smartest strategies you can use when dealing with toxic people. Arguing with someone who has no intention of understanding you is like trying to explain the ocean to a fish who refuses to leave the bowl. Toxic individuals don't argue to resolve, they argue to dominate. They twist your words, shift blame, and gaslight you into thinking you're overreacting. But when you switch from reacting to observing, you take away their fuel. You stop dancing to their tune. You start seeing them for who they are instead of who they pretend to be. Observation gives you clarity, and clarity gives you power. Instead of reacting emotionally, you begin to notice patterns. You begin to identify triggers and motives. You begin to understand that not every conflict is about truth. Sometimes it's about control. Toxic people often bait you into defending yourself, not because they care about your side, but because they thrive on your energy. The more emotional you become, the more in control they feel. That's why silence is such a powerful response. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know that peace is more valuable than being right. When you stop engaging in their chaos, they lose the power to control your emotional state. They start to realize that their usual tactics, guilt, manipulation, gaslighting, don't work on you anymore. That's when they panic or shift or double down. But you've already won because you chose to observe instead of get pulled into their storm. Observing also gives you time to decide how you want to handle the situation. You might not have an immediate response, but that's okay. Silence is not a weakness, it's strategy. Let them show who they are. Let them reveal their true intentions. The more you observe, the more you detach emotionally. You start responding with logic instead of anger. You begin to see that their outbursts, their mind games, and their passive aggression are not about you. They're about them. That's the moment you reclaim your peace. Because now you're no longer playing their game. You're just watching from the sidelines, making mental notes, learning who's really for you and who just wants to use you as their emotional punching bag. You learn that not every insult deserves a rebuttal, and not every lie needs to be corrected. Sometimes the smartest response is no response. Let people believe what they want to believe. Let them talk. Let them spin their narratives. You've got nothing to prove to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. Your energy is too valuable to waste on convincing people who thrive on chaos. The more you practice observing, the easier it becomes to stay calm in the face of provocation. You become less reactive and more intentional. You stop matching energies and start protecting your own. You stop trying to fix people and start fixing your focus. You stop trying to control how they act and start controlling how you respond. That shift alone changes everything. You begin to value your peace more than you value winning arguments. You begin to understand that you don't need to engage with every voice that demands your attention. You become selective, measured, grounded. Toxic people can't survive long in environments where their manipulation has no effect. So when you stop reacting, when you just observe, they lose their power over you. They may get louder, but you stay calmer. They may push harder, but you hold firmer, and eventually they either change or remove themselves. Because a toxic person cannot maintain power over someone who has learned to control their own emotion. That emotional control, born out of silent observation, is the shield that protects your mental clarity and emotional well-being. Setting clear boundaries is one of the most essential and self-respecting actions you can take when dealing with toxic people. Boundaries aren't about being cold or cutting people off for no reason. They're about drawing a line around your emotional, mental, and even physical space and saying, this is what I will and will not allow. Toxic people test those lines constantly. They want to see how far they can push, how much they can take, and how much of yourself you're willing to sacrifice to keep the peace. But the truth is, peace that comes at the cost of your self-worth isn't peace at all. It's compliance. And the longer you comply with what doesn't serve you, the more disconnected you become from your own values, identity, and emotional strength. A person who truly respects you will never push your boundaries out of convenience. But toxic people often operate with a sense of entitlement. They feel entitled to your time, your forgiveness, your silence, and your space. And if you don't have strong boundaries in place, you'll find yourself constantly giving more than you can afford to lose, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. You may start feeling like you're being pulled in every direction, trying to please people who never seem satisfied. That exhaustion, that sense of being drained, that emotional burnout is often a sign that your boundaries are either weak or non-existent, and no one else is going to set those boundaries for you. That's your job. That's your responsibility. It's your right to protect your well-being, even if it makes others uncomfortable. When you start setting boundaries, you'll notice how quickly some people change. Some will respect it, and others will resist it. The ones who resist are often the ones who benefit the most from your lack of boundaries in the first place. They'll call you selfish, distant, rude, or dramatic. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because they can no longer exploit your kindness. That reaction is not your fault. It's a reflection of how they see you as someone they can control, someone they can lean on without giving back, someone who's always available no matter how much it costs you. But once you start making decisions that protect your peace and preserve your energy, you'll realize that the people who truly value you will adjust and honor your boundaries without guilt-tripping you. Boundaries are a form of self-love. They're how you communicate your standards, your values, and your needs. They teach people how to treat you, and more importantly, they teach you how to treat yourself. When you say no to something that doesn't align with your well-being, you're saying yes to your growth. When you choose not to engage in toxic conversations, you're choosing your mental clarity. When you limit access to people who repeatedly hurt or disrespect you, you're choosing healing over chaos. And that choice has to become a daily habit, not just a reaction to pain. You set boundaries before things escalate, not after. You don't wait until you're completely broken to draw the line. You draw the line to prevent yourself from breaking in the first place. The beauty of boundaries is that they don't need to be loud or dramatic. You don't always have to make a big announcement. Sometimes a boundary is as simple as not answering a text right away, stepping out of a conversation, choosing not to share personal details, or declining an invitation. It's not about explaining yourself every time. It's about honoring your limits with consistency. Toxic people will always look for cracks in your armor, ways to sneak past your line. But when you become consistent with your boundaries, those cracks begin to seal. You become a person who is not easily manipulated, not easily shaken, not easily controlled. And that kind of personal power is something toxic people fear, because it means they can no longer influence your emotions, your decisions, or your direction. Boundaries are not walls to keep everyone out. They are doors that allow the right people in and keep the wrong ones from draining your life. Refusing to be controlled by guilt is one of the most powerful decisions you can make when dealing with toxic people. Guilt is one of their favorite tools. They use it to manipulate, to shift blame, to keep you tethered to their drama. It starts subtly with comments that make you second-guess yourself, question your intentions, and feel bad for doing what's best for you. over time, that guilt grows into a pattern of self-sacrifice. You start saying yes when you mean no. You start apologizing for things that aren't your fault. You begin to feel responsible for someone else's emotions, choices, and failures. That's the trap. Because guilt has a way of disguising itself as empathy. You don't want to hurt anyone. You don't want to be the bad guy. And toxic people know how to play on that compassion to keep you from standing in your truth. When guilt becomes a method of control, it's no longer about love or connection. It's about power. Toxic individuals will remind you of everything they've ever done for you only to make you feel indebted. They'll twist your actions and frame you as selfish for choosing your peace. They'll make you feel like setting a boundary is betrayal, like saying no is rejection, like stepping away is abandonment. But none of that is true. That's the emotional manipulation speaking, not reality. You are not responsible for carrying someone else's emotional baggage. You are not obligated to stay in unhealthy dynamics just because someone else refuses to grow or heal. Love, respect, and loyalty are not measured by how much you're willing to suffer to keep someone else comfortable. Toxic guilt makes you shrink. It makes you question your worth. It convinces you that you're only as good as your ability to serve others, even at your own expense. But real strength is found in reclaiming your ability to say no without explaining, to walk away without apologizing, and to choose yourself without feeling like a villain. That's not selfishness, that's clarity, that's freedom, that's maturity. And it comes when you realize that guilt should never be a motivator for your decisions. If your choices are based on fear of how someone else will react, you're not living in alignment. You're surviving in reaction. And survival mode is no place for growth. Letting go of guilt means confronting those internalized beliefs that tell you it's wrong to protect your peace. Maybe you were raised to believe that love equals sacrifice, or that saying no makes you ungrateful. Maybe someone in your life taught you that your needs should always come second, or that disagreeing with someone is disrespectful. These are learned behaviors, often shaped by past trauma, unhealthy relationships, or cultural expectations. But you have the power to unlearn them. You have the right to redefine what love looks like, what respect feels like, and what responsibility truly means. You are not here to be a martyr for anyone's comfort. You are here to live with intention, with clarity, with courage. Every time you choose to release guilt, you reclaim a piece of your power. You start to notice the difference between compassion and codependency, between helping and enabling, between care and control. You begin to trust your instincts again instead of suppressing them out of fear of disappointing others. You begin to stand tall and speak clear and move with purpose. Toxic people may not like it. In fact, they'll probably push harder when they see you no longer react the way you used to. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. Their reaction is not your burden. You don't have to carry the weight of other people's expectations, moods, or emotional messes just to be seen as good. You are already enough without sacrificing your peace to prove it. Refusing to be controlled by guilt allows you to live from a place of strength, not fear, and to choose your path without constantly looking over your shoulder. Staying focused on your purpose is one of the most effective ways to deal with toxic people, because purpose acts as a compass. It keeps you grounded, it reminds you of who you are, and it protects you from distractions that are designed to pull you off track. Toxic people are masters at creating noise. They'll pull you into drama, stir up conflict, and throw shade your way, not because you've done anything wrong, but because they can't stand the light you carry. The more focused you are, the more they'll try to interfere because your success threatens their comfort. Your progress exposes their stagnation. Your discipline reveals their chaos. When someone doesn't know their own purpose, they often spend their time trying to sabotage yours. That's why staying laser focused on your goals is not just about achieving something. It's about protecting your energy from the people who don't want to see you grow. Purpose gives you clarity. It helps you see what truly matters and what doesn't. When you know where you're headed, you don't waste time arguing with people who aren't even on the same road. You don't lose sleep over opinions that don't feed your vision. You start to realize that not everyone deserves your time, not every invitation deserves a yes, and not every critic deserves a response. Your time is limited. Your energy is sacred. You can't afford to pour it into distractions disguised as relationships. Sometimes toxic people show up as friends, co-workers, or even family, but their presence always feels heavy. They don't encourage you, they discourage you. They don't celebrate your progress, they question it. They act like they're concerned, but their words are laced with jealousy and subtle jabs. And if you're not anchored in your purpose, you'll find yourself shrinking to fit in, dumbing down your vision to make others comfortable, or second-guessing yourself because of someone else's insecurity. When you stay focused on your purpose, you develop tunnel vision, not in the sense of ignoring everything, but in the sense of filtering out what's not aligned with your calling. You begin to set priorities. You stop chasing validation. You start making choices based on where you want to be, not based on who might be offended. That level of focus scares toxic people because now you're no longer available for their nonsense. You're not feeding the cycle of drama they thrive on. You're not biting the bait they throw at you. And that frustrates them because they can no longer control your emotions. They can't manipulate your attention. They can't slow your progress with their opinions. You've become too focused, too determined, too clear on what you're here to do. Purpose is also what gives your pain meaning. Toxic people will try to make you feel like you're crazy for wanting more, like you're selfish for dreaming big, or ungrateful for walking away from comfort. But your purpose will remind you that you're not here to play small. You're not here to meet anyone's low expectations. You're here to rise. And rising sometimes means leaving behind the noise, even if it means standing alone for a while. It means choosing long-term growth over short-term approval. It means doing the work in silence while they gossip in loud circles. It means staying committed to your goals even when no one claps for you. Purpose doesn't need an audience. It needs discipline. It needs vision. It needs focus. The more aligned you are with your purpose, the less reactive you become. You stop being pulled into every emotional battle. You stop letting toxic people dictate your mood, your schedule, or your decisions. You become intentional about where you invest your attention. You learn to say no without guilt, walk away without anger, and stay grounded without explanation. Your purpose becomes your protection. It becomes the reason you keep moving forward even when others try to hold you back. It becomes the filter through which you evaluate every relationship, every opportunity, and every distraction. You no longer ask, does this make them happy? You start asking, does this move me closer to my purpose? Letting actions speak louder than confrontation is a strategy that demands strength, discipline, and emotional maturity, especially when dealing with toxic people. Toxic individuals often thrive on attention, reaction, and emotional chaos. They want to pull you into arguments, provoke you with passive-aggressive behavior, and get you to lose control so they can twist the narrative and make you the villain. But when you choose to stay silent and focused, when you let your growth your peace, and your results speak for themselves. It sends a message much louder than any argument ever could. Toxic people want you to respond emotionally because that gives them power. Your silence, your calm, your progress, those things disturb them because they can't manipulate you if they can't control your emotions. That's why choosing not to engage is not weakness, it's wisdom. When you allow your actions to be your voice, you shift the dynamic completely. You stop feeding into the cycles of blame, guilt, and defensiveness. You start showing with your behavior that you will not tolerate disrespect, that you will not stay in places where you are not valued, and that you are capable of walking away with dignity. You begin to send a message without raising your voice. You show them, not tell them, that you're evolving. And nothing unsettles a toxic person more than someone they can no longer trigger. They want you to fight, to explain, to justify yourself endlessly. They want you to fall apart so they can point fingers and play the victim. But when you rise above and keep moving forward, you deny them the chaos they crave. You keep your energy intact and your reputation clean because you didn't stoop to their level. You rose above it. Letting actions speak is also about self-respect. It's choosing to live your truth instead of arguing about it. It's knowing that not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life, especially those who only want to critique, control, or confuse you. Toxic people often operate in manipulation, and one of their tactics is to bait you into explaining your worth or proving your goodness. But your character doesn't need defending if it's real. The way you live, the consistency of your values, the peace you carry, that's the real proof. Over time, people begin to notice who's genuine and who's pretending. They see who's constantly involved in conflict and who quietly keeps growing. They recognize who's always talking and who's actually walking the path they speak about. Avoiding confrontation doesn't mean avoiding the truth. Sometimes it means showing the truth through how you live. Toxic people might lie about you, twist facts, or play innocent, but you don't have to chase every rumor or defend every lie. That's exhausting and counterproductive. Let time reveal everything. Let consistency uncover who was real. Let your silence speak louder than their noise. That's not avoidance, it's confidence. Confidence that your truth will stand without needing your constant defense. Confidence that your life will bear fruit and the results will silence the doubt. Choosing action over confrontation also keeps you in control of your narrative. When you don't react to every provocation, you're no longer playing someone else's game. You're living on your terms. That control helps you stay grounded, helps you protect your energy, and helps you focus on what actually matters. You start investing in yourself, your goals, and your peace instead of wasting emotional currency on people who thrive on chaos. You show them through your stability that they don't get to influence your direction. You show them through your progress that their presence is not essential to your success. You show them through your joy that you can heal, grow, and thrive without ever needing to fight for their approval or attention. That level of discipline sends a message no amount of shouting can compete with. It's not about proving a point with words. It's about proving a life with purpose, peace, and quiet strength.